I'm a small town kid born with a big city spirit. I choose to play a lot of awesome roles in life: mom, wife, entrepreneur, CEO, board member, investor, and mentor. 17 years ago, I founded a marketing consultancy, and ever since, my husband JR and I have been building our careers and our family on the exact same timeline. Yep, that means 4 kids, 3 businesses, 2 careers, all building towards one life we love. When I discovered that I could purposefully embrace all of these ands in my life, it unlocked my world. And I want that for you too. I'm Tiffany Souter, and this is Scared Confident. Okay, where to start? Jumping on this episode today, and my face is literally hurting me. I decided to get a chemical peel, because I want bright, glowing skin, and it mostly feels like awful. So I am decidedly not a chemical peel girl. This is like day 4 or 5. Anyway, I hate it. So I know some people have had success. Maybe you should try it, but my face is like dry and hurting and cracking, and I hate it. So that's where I'm starting. But I did this after I just got back from a trip with my husband. We went away, just the 2 of us. And this is literally my number 1 tip, number 1 piece of advice to couples who are wanting to stay married for a really long time, which is like literally everybody. When you go into marriage, you're like, this is going to be perfect. This is going to be great. And this is going to be for a lifetime. But it doesn't always end up that way. And I've been really candid on the podcast that my husband and I have had to work really hard for our marriage and work really hard for it to be as good as it is today. And this is literally like the number 1 thing is getting away once a year. Our lives are so big and so busy and too often pull us into different orbits, different spaces, different places. He travels a lot. And so this is such an important time for us to reconnect. We didn't always do this, and I wish we would have. It can be really difficult to get away. The trip that we were just on, it like literally doesn't matter where you go, but we just walked. We put it was like 20,000 steps and 2 bottles of wine every single day. And we ate everything. It was awesome. I think it has much less to do with where you go and what you do, and more about having the time to sit and actually listen to one another, to sit in conversations past the obvious tactical logistics of the day to day and actually get into the real conversations of your life. What are your dreams for yourselves? What's your vision for your family? What do you need to solve differently for your kids? How can I support you better? How can you support me better? How do we solve more together so that at the end of 2024, we feel like we're more aligned, more of a team, closer, like all of that stuff has moved forward. And just like in our businesses, it doesn't happen without a lot of intention. So I have a few tips that I'll share to help you get this into your schedule. But I am serious. If you want to make your marriage important, getting time away, just the 2 of you, is incredibly important. It reminds you that like we really like each other. I have a whole entire existence outside of this role of being a mom. Like I'm a whole person, and it is good to experience yourself in that way. And it's good to like, I don't know, just be free of like, mom, can you get me a drink? Mom, can you help me with this? Like, can you put this away? And just like having to do all the chores of the life. Like it's awesome, but having a break from that is really refreshing. So here's some advice that I have. The first one is put it on the calendar in advance. We have found November is a really good time for us to get away. The kids are in routine back in school. Holiday crazy hasn't started. We have 1 kid in travel volleyball, and that's really difficult to get away in that season because we travel so much for those 6 months. So look at your calendar, look at the pace and expectations and different seasons of your year, and find a season that works well for your family or maybe your parents who can help you with the kids or whatever that looks like, and put your 2024 trip dates on the calendar now. Or at least like a 2 to 3 week, it needs to happen in here. And go ahead and let whoever's going to watch your kids know, hey, we'd like to take this trip next year. Can you block your calendar so that all that stuff is set up? That's the biggest thing, putting it on the calendar and finding somebody to watch the kids. So do it now. Do it in advance. My second piece of advice is to get away for at least 5 days. So in a 5-day trip, there's 2 days of travel and there's 3 days of like actually being there. I found if it's shorter than that, if it's shorter than 5 days, it just feels like you're packing up, unpacking, repacking, and flying home. Like, it doesn't actually feel like you're getting away. For it always takes us a couple days, or me in particular, to just, like, unwind from the tactical demands of my life and what my head is thinking about all the time. And so, go away for at least 5 days. It feels long. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be far away. It can be a national park. Like, literally, it doesn't have to be glamorous. But getting away somewhere to a place that both of you feel like you can relax is really, really important. The third piece of advice is have a plan for what you want to talk about. I literally go with a list. I had a list on my phone, and I would say 2 to 3 months in advance of that, I was thinking about what are the things I want to get JR's attention on? What are the things I want his ideas around? What are the things I feel like we need to solve for in the family that we're not maybe doing as well as I think we could right now? And I like literally had a note on my phone of I think I had like 8 or 9 topics that I wanted to talk to him about. And I told him, "Hey, when we're at meals, not that everything has to be like this big dramatic thing, but I want to talk about this stuff. Like we need to chew through these things so that we're on the same page. And as I'm making choices for our family, as I'm, just like doing stuff that I know that we're aligned on what that's going to look like." So I literally had a list, and I encourage you to do that when you're like trying to have a fun time away. It can be difficult to have the courage to bring up hard conversations. And I understand that. Like you don't want to bring I don't know, the stuff of life into like what's supposed to be a really fun time. But the beauty of being together for that long is you have time to actually resolve things. Like, let's talk about this for a little bit. I'm really frustrated. Like, that's not the way I see it. I don't feel like you heard me. And maybe you'll have to walk away from that topic for a little while and come back to it. But because you're together for 5 days, you have time to do that. Like, I feel like we got, I don't know, 6 months worth of conversations done because I had his full attention, he had my full attention, and we just weren't, like, distracted with the day to day. So I just think it's so important. Have a plan for what you wanna talk about. Um, we're not always as planful, but we had just been to a seminar the week before, with Patrick Lencioni, and he just published a book, and there's a survey called The 6 Types of Working Genius. And so JR and I both took that test beforehand and used that assessment results to, like, talk about our interaction, the way that we work together, like he and I, the way that we can hear each other better. I'll give you an example. It was like so powerful, actually. So, the premise of the book is that everybody has 2 geniuses and 2 working frustrations. So, of the 6, 2 you're awesome at, they're like your natural default. 2 of them just drain energy from you. And the 2 in the middle, I don't know, they're like your medium working geniuses. You can do them for a while, but you don't consciously go there first. So my working geniuses are invention. I'm an inventor. I have like 1,000 gajillion ideas, and galvanizer. So lots of ideas and bringing people together. That's what I love. And JR's top 2 are discernment, like are things good or are they bad? Like let's be discerning, which I very much value from him. And galvanizer, also bringing people together, which I think is really interesting. Because the way we talk about our relationship in its ideal state is that we feel like teammates. That's like our ideal nirvana for our relationship. And I think it comes from us both being galvanizers, which is bringing people together, having a shared mission, shared understanding, like working together. Like, I think that's so interesting. I had never figured that out before, but I think that's why we talk about being a team as being the like highest evolution of our version of marriage. I know there's different ways to do it, but for us, that's what we like it to feel like. So I'm an inventor, which just means I have a gajillion ideas. So when he's gone for a long time, my brain is always just coming up with ideas, different businesses I could start, stuff that I see. Wouldn't it be cool? I bet I could sell this. Like, it just literally does that on its own. I don't have to make it do that. It just is thinking of stuff. And so then when JR is gone and I'm with the girls, and yes, I'm like in my job, but like, Kyler, as the president of Element 3, his job is not to listen to all of my ideas. So when JR is gone a bunch, I don't like have anybody to listen to my ideas, which is fine. But then he comes home and I'm like, guess what? And I have all these words to say. And JR, wanting to like be the best he can be for me, naturally steps into that conversation in his strengths, which is discernment. And discerners are trying to figure out which one's good, which one's bad. Let's sort through this. What are my questions? And I get pissed because I just want him to listen and like validate me as an inventor. Like, oh my word, you have so many ideas. Those are great. I'm not going to go do them right now. I'm not asking him to like look at a pitch deck. I'm just asking him to hear me as his wife. And going through this test, this like 6 types of working genius, was so helpful for me to have the language to be able to say, I want you to hear me as an inventor. I don't want you to discern for me what I'm about ready to tell you. Like, I just want to share with you my idea because I just need to say it to somebody and I want you to listen. And I just want you to say, wow, that's cool at the end. That's all I want you to do. I'm not going to go do it right now. I promise. If I think I'm going to go do it, then I will come and use your discerner brain to help me figure out if this is a good thing or a bad thing or what other risks I should be thinking about, because that's not a natural thing for me to think about. So, my reason for sharing that story with you is that taking the time to go away prompted me to ask myself the question, hey, while we're away and we were gone for 10 days, crazy, the longest we've ever been away from everybody. And it was incredible. We're going to be away. I want to set my intention to how do we use this time thoughtfully, strategically to become closer at the end of it. And we use this tool like, let's be intentional. Let's both take this and then let's share our results and let's talk about how does that inform how we show up better for one another in our relationship. So again, like, could we have done this assessment in our day-to-day life? Could we have had that revelation and like deeper understanding of our natural states and how we can work better together just in our normal life? Sure, we could have. But I give that a 2% chance of happening in our life. Like, in the speed of the week, the demands on our mental energy, the season that we're in with our kids, we are just at sporting events a lot, which is so fun and so cool to support them and all this kind of stuff. But as a result, as a consequence, we don't always have the quiet time that we need in our relationship to like really connect differently. And this time away is a really big deal. I think in every season it's hard to get away. There's like reasons to not is, well, I don't have people who can help me with my kids. Okay, let's talk about that. There are some people who have situations where their kids are like have intense medical needs and it's like literally almost impossible, but that is not the majority of us. Some of us just have not created a network of people who can help us with our kids. So if you are going to work outside of the home, both of you, you are going to have to learn how to accept help. And one of those is finding people that you trust, that your kids learn to trust, and through a set of experiences, get to the place where they'd be comfortable with them staying with them for a week. The young woman who stayed with our kids, her name is Chloe. She has been in our life for a very long time. And because of that, our kids were really comfortable with her staying with them during the school week. And then my parents and my husband's parents helped on the weekends, which I'm so grateful for that. And yes, we are so blessed with the proximity of that. But find friends, find coworkers, find people at church, find people at your gym, create a relationship with somebody through care.com. Like, intentionally say, this is important for us. Our marriage needs this time away. Would you support us in watching our kids? And we would help you. We would do that for our friends in a heartbeat that don't have family close if they asked us. So just know people want to help you. And it's about getting your brain around the fact that people want to help you and that you have to have help if you're going to be really productive in a 2-career home, because you can't do it all. There's no way. So that's number one. Yes, you've got to figure out care for your kids. And I like strategically solve for that. And using the same sitters over and over again, having them for dinner at our house, like doing things that make it feel comfortable for my kids to have that person there. That is really important so that the kids are doing well while you're away. The second is like, hey, it's expensive. It is expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive, but so is divorce. It is very, very, very expensive to live in a relationship that is loveless from a relational perspective. And it is very expensive to get divorced. So I always say, pick your hard. Yeah, it's expensive. It takes money for us to go away, but it is the place where we're choosing to invest in our relationship instead of on the back end. It's like, preventative maintenance versus healthcare costs, like it's expensive to hire a trainer, also very expensive to like, you know, have hypertension and, need heart surgery. Like that's also very expensive. So you got to pick where you're investing your energy. You got to pick where you're investing your money. You got to pick where you're investing your time. So that's moving you towards your goals. Another objection people have, like, isn't it a lot of work to get away? Yeah, totally. It's a lot of work to get away. But again, like choose your hard. I remember the seasons where JR and I's relationship was not a 10, let's say not even a 6. The amount of energy that it took to exist in our home and in our marriage was like bone crushing because it was so much work. It was so much work to navigate that relationship. It took so much mental energy. Like it was terrible. I was so tired because our relationship was just off and it was not good and we weren't supporting each other and it was so bad. And so, yeah, it's a lot of work to get away. It's a lot of work to get 4 kids to where they need to go, to make sure there's enough food in the house, to like do all the things. It is a lot of work. But again, it is the work I choose because I have been tired in my household for different reasons, for less productive reasons, for reasons that were less aligned to the outcomes that I want in my life. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. But figure out how to simplify things. Like make it easy. Feed them DiGiorno for a week. Like who cares? They're not going to die. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. But again, choose your heart. I think some people really miss their kids too. I think some people are afraid they're going to get away and not know how to be them and not know how to exist just in the relationship. Because when there is not the distraction of, I've got to run somebody there, the kids are interrupting us, the TV's on all the time, you actually are sitting in the reality of your relationship. And I think sometimes that can be a really scary idea for people. So we say things like, I think I'm going to miss the kids. I think maybe the truer thing we could say is, I'm afraid I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm afraid I'm not going to have fun. I'm afraid I'm going to realize I don't actually like my spouse anymore. I don't know. But like a trip with your spouse reveals all of that stuff. And if that stuff is real, you've got to get it to the surface so that you can actually deal with it. Like that's not what you want. That's not what you're working for. Like, let's end the charade and let's work on the thing that we want. Let's work towards it. And I just think time away is so revealing of like, if our relationship is really strong, it will show that. And if it's not, we need to know that. If we're disconnected, if we can't agree on anything, if we're struggling to just like do a day together, we need to know that because if we don't, then all of a sudden we're going to realize, oh my word, time fast forwarded and we don't have a relationship at all. So anyway, this is like really, 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 really an important thing. It is a sacred minimum for us in our home. I talk about minimums. We do not right now have the capacity for a really consistent date night. We don't right now have the capacity to say we're going to get away for a weekend quarterly. Maybe someday, but right now this is our minimum. So whether this is the thing you and your spouse choose or not, one trip away by yourself for at least 5 days, that's what ours is. Find your minimum. Find a way to get the craziness of your life to be calm long enough that you authentically engage way past the tactical, ordinary stuff of your life, just the housekeeping tasks. You know what that looks like. And really rediscover each other. Go on adventures, go on new places, make each other laugh, like try new food, like all of that. I told JR, I think one of the most exciting things for me when we go on these trips, we usually go somewhere new, is when you're somewhere new, your senses are alive in a way that they're not when you're somewhere familiar. I walked from my car to the office today for, I don't know, the 3,000th time, like so many times. And I have no idea what the weather was. I have no idea if there was something on the sidewalk. I have no idea because it was just a very familiar walk for me. I just did the thing on autopilot. But when you're in a brand new city, when you're in a place where people don't speak the same language, when you're in a new national park, when you're sleeping under the stars, when you're just doing something that's outside of the ordinary in a way that your senses are not like just numb to the routine, I find myself so alive and I find myself experiencing and seeing and feeling and tasting just at a totally different level than when I'm in my day to day. I also think there's benefit to that. Like you just get to rediscover your own senses and rediscover yourself and then go back in, to the normal life. I love my normal life. It's amazing. This was not an escape from the thing I hate, but this was definitely a season of rejuvenation for JR and I. This was a season of like me being a customer of my days, like a primary customer of adventure and where we ate and, you know, trying on crazy clothes, like whatever I wanted to do, we went and like did that kind of stuff. And it was awesome. So I hope that this episode has helped you see the importance of this. I hope that it's encouraged you to take stock in this season of the holidays of like, hey, you got to be a customer of your own life. You've got to make sure that you're tending to your marriage. You've got to make sure that you're keeping that in the foreground because nobody else is going to force it to be important. It's going to be a you job. Thanks for listening in. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Scared Confident. Until next time, keep telling fear, you will not decide what happens in my life. I will. If you want to get the inside scoop, sign up for my newsletter. We decided to make content for you instead of social media algorithms. The link is waiting for you in show notes, or you can head over to tiffanysauter.com. Thanks for listening in.